What if the factors that fuel human trafficking aren't just forces out there, but right here, shaping the world we live in every day? Here, we take an unflinching look at how cultural influence, hidden pain, and exploitative systems contribute to the demand for commercial sex. This isn't just another awareness podcast about a social issue. It's about people, the human stories of those harmed, those healing, and those waking up to their role in change. Welcome to the Demand Disruption Podcast.
I have been looking forward to this conversation quite a bit. It's an honor to talk with some of our guests, but the things that we talk about are very deep and very personal. And so we're going to zoom out a little bit today and talk about something that's at the core of everything that we do, transformation. Whether we're talking to young people, whether we're talking to a person at the point of arrest, it is about getting from one point, reevaluating ourselves, and then getting to a better place. And I can't think of any better person than Christa Mayfield to join us today. Christa, we're so glad to have you. I was trying to come up with a cool title because you already have your titles. You'll tell everybody who you are. But really the bottom line, when you're around, you're so intentional all the time and it just uplifts everybody. So that's a long title, but that's about the best I could come up with because it's accurate.
Intentional uplifter. I will own that. Absolutely.
It sounds like Botox, but we'll just call you Botox. That's your nickname.
That's genius. I love that. We could call it my botulism toxin.
That's wordy.
It's a little bit much.
We're in show business here. Let's get it right.
That's hysterical.
Tell us about you.
So I produced this podcast, which is partly why I'm sitting in this chair. But I am a lot of things, and it's kind of the bane of my existence to introduce myself. I'm a speaker, I'm a teacher, I'm a creative, but among a lot of the things I do, I have worked in anti-trafficking for over a decade, done almost every job in the books. But I'm also a certified health coach. I graduated from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition in 2020, and I privately work with clients. So I see clients one-on-one. And in my work in anti-trafficking, I've gotten a lot of trauma training. And really what that is, though, it's how the brain works. Trauma is just simply how the brain works under pain and stress. And so when you kind of have that education, you really understand how these brilliant computers in our brain are functioning, how our bodies then respond, and then how that impacts the quality of our life, our choices, our actions. As a health coach, as I was going through school, one of the things that they constantly told us was that it's not your job to tell someone how to live their life. They called us, you are a guide on the side.
Guide on the side.
And they taught us how to walk through someone's change process with them. And so a lot of times, and I feel bad for them, a lot of times when people hire me, they think like, oh, you're going to give me a meal plan and you're going to tell me to work out 5 times a week. And it's
called a trainer.
Yeah, that's not it at all.
Yeah.
So I work with clients for about 6 months at a time. And my goal is that not only will they change in the way that they want to, but they will learn how to change so that they can continue to make transformation in their life.
Learn how to change.
And so all of that kind of culminated as I'm sitting in our little producer booth on the other side of these cameras, because I also produce. And I'm listening to Brian and Tracy and Angela, and everyone's talking about these amazing transformations that they've made in their life. And I'm like obnoxiously nodding my head in the background because I'm hearing things. I'm like, oh, that's very science-based. That's very truth-based. And you're right. Transformation is so deeply ingrained in who we are. We want to see lives transformed. We want to see people live in the fullness of who they're meant to be. When it comes to trafficking, we want men to never buy sex again. Like, that is a massive transformation. And so I felt like as I was looking at our outline for this season of the podcast, I realized, like, I think there's a space here to talk about what it really does mean to transform. And so not just so that someone with, an unwanted sexual behavior can make change, but so that anybody can look at their life and go, ooh, man, like, am I making the most of my one beautiful short life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much there, because it is a trap that we sometimes fall into, talking about the extremities of the situation of trafficking or being harmed. Vulnerability, somebody that would do harm. I mean, those are all very real things every day with us. And so I think there is just a bit of a trap where it gets, oh, that's awful. And it's segmented into this terrible box. But at the core of that, and you just said it, is something I want to talk about, because you're working now with an organization that focuses on buyer behavior, demand, who's driving the model. Before you worked very closely and very thoroughly with an organization that focused on survivor care. Mm-hmm. And so we always see in this work silos, these separate lanes, and then never the twain shall meet. Like that's this default that we have in anti-trafficking work. And as much as we all say we have collaboratives and we have these coalitions, it stays separate all too often. We're trying to bring that intersection together, because the similarities within that are the same similarities that are necessary to affect change, to see transformation. Mm-hmm. So zooming out of that box, everybody's listening, anybody's listening, ourselves included. Mm-hmm. What do people get wrong when it comes to behavioral change? Whether it's a focus, whatever. Like, what are people getting wrong is strong, but that's what I'm sticking with.
Yeah. Most of us, when we're trying to make a change in our life, we go for the thing that we want to see stop. So, as a health coach, my job isn't just like food and life, it's lifestyle. So, these are busy moms, these are, young people, whatever, but they're like, I've been doing XYZ, like I eat ice cream every night, or I never work out. I got to start working out, right? I got to start eating broccoli, whatever the thing is. Yeah. And then that's their focus. And for all of us, right? For most of us, when we look at our lives and we're like, oh, what happened? We get uncomfy, right? Like something's bothering me. Like I don't feel good in my body. My marriage is struggling, whatever. So I need to make a change. That thought process is perfect.
They're consequence focused, though.
Yes, right. Like I don't feel good in my body, which that's always a beautiful thing. And as humans, we're always those symptoms are there to teach us
recognition.
So even if it's my marriage is struggling, or I've been watching porn and my brain's being affected, or whatever it is, those are like, ooh, this is a sign, right, that something we're doing in our life isn't producing the fruit that we like. So then we just go for the behavior. What am I doing? I need to fix this. And if that's your approach, you might be super successful. You might not be. And a lot of people struggle to make change. A lot of people are like, I need to go to the gym. I need to go to the gym. And then 3 years later, you still need to go to the gym. I totally get that. But what happens is that, let's say you do make change. Let's say I do a couch to 5K, right? And I've did my 5K race. I'm never running again. And a lot of people will then cycle back into their old behaviors because they haven't addressed their motivations.
It wasn't about the race. It wasn't about the 5K, 10K, 100,000K. It wasn't about that.
They never addressed their motivations. And deeper than that, they never looked at how that behavior or how that habit was actually serving them. And once you start to pick there, then you can start to see the bigger picture and realize, oh, I was doing this because it was helping me with something else. And that once you kind of tap on that door, that is where the transfer, that's to me as a coach, when I see someone make that connection, and I'm just kind of I don't know what it is when someone comes to me, but I get to kind of walk them through that process. And then when they say, okay, for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to have 30 grams of protein for breakfast. And then we come back 2 weeks later, I'm like, hey, how are your breakfasts? I skipped breakfast every day because I was too busy. Okay, let's talk about that. And once you kind of begin to, again, tap on, hey, what's this habit, it's serving the bigger picture. So what does that look like for you? That's where we really start to see that actual transformation process begin to take place.
I'm taking to a lot of things in our work, but not really our work. It's more of the fundamental approaches we have in our work. And one of them is we talk about the difference between awareness and understanding, because they're not the same thing. Anti-trafficking, human trafficking awareness is that trafficking's happening. Oh, it's happening in America. Oh no, it's happening even in some neighborhoods. Like, that is awareness. The understanding is why it's happening, cause and effect, contributing factors that lead to the outcome. That's really what you're talking about here also. Like, I'm aware that salads exist. I'm aware. I know a few names of salads. I don't understand why you'd eat that instead of brisket. Like, there's a huge gap there. If you can make me understand, then maybe I'll eat more salads and I'll live longer or whatever. But all kidding aside, that's what you're getting at. It's what is that cause and effect? But let's go to the cause and let's understand that, because when we fail to take a healthy action, it's usually because we're not valuing why we would take that action as much as we are focusing on the action. Is that a fair summary?
It is a fair summary, and I would say it's not fully complete. So, because we can have values, right? Like, we can think, I love my wife, or I want to be able to play with my kids. Yeah. So we have these values, and then our behavior doesn't line up, and then we're frustrated with ourselves. But I love what you talked about, cause and effect, because I have come to learn that all of our actions are dictated by our beliefs. We as humans always act on what we believe to be true. Not what we think, not what we know, not what we think is important or we value or what we say we believe. What our subconscious brain and our nervous system believe to be true, that is how we act.
And it dictates our behavior.
And it is the ultimate programming. And if you are struggling with something, or you have a habit, or you just kind of look at your life will tell you what you actually believe. And what you actually believe can be very different from what you think you believe.
Man. Okay, so we deal with something, as you know, called the experiential avoidance. And it's like you're just describing that, but you're doing it in a way that some ways I've never considered. So experiential avoidance is essentially that. You've got a behavior that you've either identified or somebody's identified for you. That is not healthy. That is not good. That is not something you should have. There's shame associated with acting out that behavior, or some avoidance that is negative. And because of that, after you're done with whatever that behavior is, even if you had some joy in it for 15, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever, a day, you start to reflect on it and shame starts to build. Well, that brings us to where we should have started in the first place, the internal struggle. Why was I doing the behavior in the first place? What was I avoiding? Because human beings we are master avoiders. If I'm feeling this, I don't like it, I am not going to sit in it. I'm going to go over here and act out in a way that distracts me or gives me some temporary joy. I mean, that's me every year. Taxes are due. I'm like, nope.
Same.
I'm going to watch the Astros. I'm going to eat more brisket. And brisket's a troubling theme that I should probably get help from you for. But yeah, so that happens. Oh, I don't want this, so I'm going to do that. Oh, I did that. I don't feel good about that. In fact, I'm conflicted about that. I shouldn't have done that. Guess where that takes you? Right back to that internal struggle. And then the loop happens. But you identified something that is the only way to break it. I believe this, I will, this is the whole fight me on this or change my mind, I'm holding up the sign. Your beliefs and your values, the core, what your own personal code of integrity and other things are. If you can get back to that, that is how you break the acting out behavior from the internal struggle. I don't want to jump ahead, but when you were describing that whole image just came to life. You did a great job of describing that. If people can take that in their own scenarios, then this isn't about trafficking. It isn't about buying sex. It's not about any avoidance other than whatever is personal to you and that you're struggling with.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things on that. And first, I want to say, I worked in direct services with people coming out of trafficking situations. And it is really easy to look at people in those extreme situations and think, wow, that's really sad for them. This is really hard for them. This is kind of what they're dealing with. But when again, as a case manager, like I'm walking someone through their change process. So I do this in a lot of different capacities, and I've learned a lot along the way. But one of the things that I learned, right, was like, oh, you are no different from me. Because what you're dealing with drugs over here and going back to your pimp and like needing the game to escape all the pain that you're feeling.
Got my own version of it.
I have my own version. I'm doing the exact same thing. And until we see that and we can identify that in ourselves, we are going to miss the person in front of us, which is why this conversation is so important. And yes, if you're in service providing, like learning how people change is important. But my hope is that we would take a breath and look at ourselves and go, am I really living out? Where's my humanity, right, in all of this? But second, I think it's really important to understand where our beliefs actually come from. The language of the nervous system, which is our brain's connection to our body. So our brain takes in data from the outside world, and it comes through our amygdala, which sits in the middle of our brain. I call it the receptionist. I've named mine Amy.
Nice.
Amy, the receptionist. She's a hot mess. But the amygdala's job is to identify data and send it to the right part of the brain for processing. And so if your amygdala gets data in and it's like, we're safe, we're good, it sends it to your prefrontal cortex where you have language and logic and linear thinking. If your amygdala says, whoa, that data is telling me that I need to act and act now and I'm not safe, it will send that data to the back of your brain, kind of your the limbic part of your brain.
Some people call it reptilian brain, whatever, yeah.
It is your survival mode. In other words, you act without processing it, and you respond.
Fight or flight, it's all that, yeah.
So that is your sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response. Whenever the brain receives that data and you're in danger, or something bad or negative is happening to you, Amy, the receptionist, will notice every single time something looks like that and will send all that information back to the back of the brain.
Even if it's not that.
Even if it's not that. So moving forward, right? New situations, new context. But if you feel that same way, if something reminds you of that, you go back to that place. Yeah. And I heard someone... Preston Smiles, I'm a college student, I cite my sources, call it taking your brain taking a screenshot. And I loved that description because that's exactly what it is. Your brain, pain, fear, scare, all the things that your brain registers as danger, which is harm, lack, or disconnection, anything in those three categories your brain processes as danger. When it sees that, it will take a snapshot, a screenshot of that image, and it will remember it. And it is imprinted into your physiology. So the brain's connection through the rest of your body, through the vagus nerve, your hormones, your blood level, your heart rate, all of that shifts. And so when I say your beliefs inform your actions, those are the beliefs I'm talking about.
It's not always this morality discussion.
Yes, right. We're not talking about good or bad or I believe in God. No, we're talking about your brain took in data and said, whoop, now I believe that to be true.
Because whether it's a saber-toothed tiger or whether it was somebody who is abusive to you, a threat in your life, your brain's creating a template for survival.
Yes.
It's creating a reaction that's safe, quick, and separates you from that danger or gives you a way to defend yourself in that moment.
Yes. Mom and dad are fighting.
Yeah.
My 6th grade bully called me fat. I got laughed at, in a school play. I got dumped super publicly, all of these kinds of things, right? We internalize those. And then what happens is without language, right? Because again, the part of the brain that's processing this is not the part of the brain that knows words.
No, that's
It is the wordless part. So there's important. A very real, visceral belief in your body that you don't even have language for. An example I give of this, I struggled with disordered eating for about 15 years of my life. And it got to a point where I was extremely unhealthy. I was really sick. And I knew that I wasn't well. I knew that it also, like, I had like a big relapse during COVID. And so I knew that there was like an anxiety piece. And so I went to therapy, and kind of unpacked some of it. And I remember I was in a session of EMDR, which is like a very highly researched, but pretty intensive therapeutic model. And I had this memory, which is what EMDR does. It helps you reprocess memories.
Forgotten. Yeah.
And I remembered being in 7th grade and sitting in a desk in Sunday school next to my best friend. My best friend was very skinny. I was also very small, but I was a swimmer. I was a dancer. I had little 2-pack abs at 12. I was dancing on point. I've always been more athletic. But I remember seeing my legs in the chair and seeing her legs in the chair and seeing how much space hers took and how much space mine took. And I just got this feeling of dread.
And you're how old at this point?
12.
Man.
Probably a few months later, or like around the time I turned 13, I got really sick for a couple of days. I couldn't eat. And I was like, oh, well, that was nice. And for the next 15 years, I learned how to skip meals, how to minimize. I made all kinds of excuses for how to eat less and less. And it became a way that I could control my size. But as I'm sitting there doing EMDR and therapy, I had totally forgotten that moment. Never came to mind. But the belief that I internalized in that moment, when we were that age, everyone liked her. She was the popular one. She was the favorite. And I was kind of the tag along.
Associated.
And the belief that I internalized was that that's why everyone likes her.
The physical embodiment of something you wanted that had nothing to do with leg size or whatever,
right.
But that's the way you attached it because that's the way you were able to make sense of it.
Yes.
And your internal struggle became a body issue. So putting the Legos back together, that incredible explanation, and thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Also, like, those don't come cheap. That is a risk. That is courage, and I appreciate you sharing that because somebody heard that, and it's like, yep. I think I just remembered the same thing. So those Legos go together, right? So you're talking about beliefs and values, right? I'm so glad we explained that because I sometimes fall very short of explaining that. It's not just morality. It's not just what's right and wrong. Your belief was...
It's the story you told yourself.
Yes, and you told that story to yourself.
Yeah.
And because you needed that to make sense or you needed some understanding, your child brain, which we're going to get to in a second, associated that with a body feature, something. And even though something that's negative, getting sick, should have been a bad thing, or, oh God, I was terrible, I didn't get to eat my favorite foods, you saw that as a solution to this belief that my legs are too big.
Yeah.
That is a breakthrough for some people. And if it was for you, please donate so that you can have that session paid for. You're welcome. But if not, it was free. As we look at this whole systematic approach and understanding that one thing is connected to another, it really unlocks all of some of the mystery of why we do what we do. And then that brings us to identity.
Yeah.
What is our identity? That word gets used so much, I think it just becomes this benign throwaway word.
Yeah.
But identity was just explaining what you said. What do I believe about myself? How does that dictate my actions?
Yeah.
And what do those actions in turn do to impact my life and the life of people around me?
Yeah. I think, again, and this is why I love health coaching, because it's not about your behavior. It's never about the food. It's never about your routines. It's always about, who do you think that you are? What do you believe about yourself? What story of shame or of fear is driving the person that you've become? And how can we shift to a new story? Again, the language of the nervous system is experience. And we have these experiences where then our brain, like you said, tries to make sense of it. And so we tell ourselves this story, but is the story true? And that's where identity comes into play, because identity is I define identity, it's who you are at the very core. It's not what you've done. It's not what happened to you. It's not what that 6th grade bully said, or the fact that your parents couldn't be there for you the way that they should have been. That's not your identity. It has absolutely impacted you. But there is a truth to who all of us are at our very, very center. And our soul knows it. That's why we cry. We have visceral reactions when something inside of us is expressed out of us. Conflict. It's like, oh man, that's like, there is a deep truth to who we are. Yeah. And healing and transformation comes when how we're living our life on the outside reflects that truth. That's why things will begin to be uncomfortable. Yeah. That's why I'm so passionate about this. Like, there is not an arbitrary, like, it's not that broccoli's good and ice cream's bad, so you should eat broccoli. It's the truth that you were made to function and to thrive, and certain things will fuel and feed that, and certain things will constrict and bring that back. And the whole point of living is to live well. Yeah. The whole point of living is to experience, to feel so good in your body, to feel so good in your life that you're like, I can't believe this is real. Like, that's the whole point, and that's what I want for people.
That sounds unattainable. The way you said it, it sounds impossible.
Yeah.
But if what you just said is possible, then I would refer everybody to about 5 minutes ago when you talked about the shaping that happens in your life based on experience and based on feelings, and how those feelings kind of dictate your behavior and what you believe about yourself and what you're worthy of. Yeah. That is that transformation piece. That comes back to, because you may not even, a person in their state that they're in, I believe there are stages and states. By that I mean sometimes you're in a stage where you're transitioning and it sucks right now, but it's going to be okay. And other times you're in a state. That is you. That is where you are. It is stasis. You're stuck. That is it. And you believe that. That's what it is. I'm going down this road because somebody needs to hear that, in a way, if you're in a state that was brought on based on belief, on interaction with somebody you trusted or at school or whatever, you start to believe that, then you are, at least temporarily, disabled. You're incapable of the change you deserve. And so you start believing you will never have that change, and you give up on it, and you just maintain in whatever measure of misery you're in. It's a little misery, it's a lot of misery, but at least X, Y, Z, because that's human nature. Yeah. And everything you're saying, this is how you unlock that. Like, I want people to, I'm a simple person. I need bold print, I need underline, and I need a slap on the neck sometimes. Like, Joe, read that again. This is that slap on the neck. Listen to what you are saying, because this isn't reserved for trafficking. It wasn't reserved for some horrible, it is at the core of us functioning as human beings to try to transform into what we deserve and what we could be.
I fully believe that we were made to thrive. And what works for surviving does not work for thriving. And it is a conscious choice. Now, obviously, there's like, a person needs to be out of survival mode and out of the situations that put them there. But again, because our brain is wired for survival, we will keep ourselves in survival mode longer than our circumstances describe for us or prescribe for us, because we're stuck in that place. And our idea of our identity and who we are and the story we've told ourselves about who we are has been shaped on those survival circumstances. But I feel like I am living proof that thriving is possible. Part of it's because I have had the privilege of being loved well, and I'm like, I have food and clean water and a shower, and like, there's all of those things. But part of that is, but I choose to see that. Yeah. And because I believe that thriving is who I am, and that thriving is what I was made for. And it took me a long time to get there. I told you the other day, but you joked about oh, like, I don't think you have martyr syndrome. And I was like, no, go read my blog. Go look at my social. I definitely have had martyr syndrome. And it's this martyr complex of like, I'm of better service, depleted and poor. It's essentially, I'm better off dead. But I have experienced a life where I do thrive. And so much of it is because I believe that it's possible for me, and that obviously I struggle. Obviously there's pain and grief and a lot of loss. And this season has been really beautiful and really hard. But I see those hard things as part of that transformation process. And when you let pain and grief and struggle come in, and you let it be part of what's shaping you to thrive more, it kind of loses its sting a little bit, not much. Yeah. But again, it comes back to that identity and understanding, like, at my core. So what I believe about every single person, no matter who they are, is you are loved. That is your identity. And there's all these parts of you that are there for a reason, and parts of your personality and I spent so much of my life feeling like I was a mistake, or feeling like I had to fix or change, or that who I was or what I wanted or what my dreams were just not right. They weren't holy enough. Yeah. And I spent a lot of time trying to just I don't just hack myself away to this. I don't know what I thought I was doing. Very like medieval, like monastery monk situation.
Ritualistic flogging.
Yes. Like I felt like I wasn't right. And so there is this part of just like looking inside yourself and going like, no, that's me. Like that is me. That's not my shame. That's not my fear. And part of our work is to separate your fear and your shame from your identity. And most of us have it all entangled in one big spaghetti bowl. Yeah. And so if you're looking to make a change in your life, start with the habit. Yes. But I can promise you, if it's going to be a lasting change, it's going to push you into that pit where you sit in the muck of who you are, and you wrestle with, this thing happened when I was a kid, and this hurt me this way, but this is a good part of, like, you're going to sit and you have to get your hands dirty. Yeah. You got to get your hands dirty, and you got to know who you are and be willing to dig through that. And that's the part that most people are afraid of, because they think we feel it, right? There's something in me that if I get too close to that, that belief, that story, that shame, that mistake, again, we don't have words for it, because it's the part of our brain that doesn't have words. We just feel terror. Yeah. And I understand that. And that's why having support or therapy or practices or rituals or something to kind of give you a framework to get in there and start working. But all transformation, and I hate to break it to you, if you just wanted the 5 steps to get rich quick, this ain't that party. Ain't that party. But it is where healing comes from. And I've told you this a million times, but I can't get what Brian said out of my head, where he said, could I have ever known the joy and the freedom of not having to be double-minded? Double-mindedness, right? To know that there's something more in me, to feel like I keep doing this thing and I can see the consequences and I don't want the consequences, but I can't stop. Like, that's an exhausting way to live. Yeah. And we don't have to live that way. And the invitation, it's an invitation, is to say, hey, there's more to you than you think. Hey, actually, this fear, this shame that you think is going to swallow you whole, it's actually this big, but you got to get in there and look it in the eye. And I have this idea that integrity, which is such a big value of mine, is when our actions are outside matches our identity. When our behaviors, when our choices, when our words, when our expressions are fully aligned with the truth of who we are. And that's a process. Like, that's not a one and done thing. And I love the word character. I think we all talk about character. We want to have character, good character, bad character. But the word character comes from the Greek word character, which comes from the Greek verb karasso, which means to etch or to engrave. And so if you think about, these Greek or Roman ancients and they're carving or they're writing on their tablets, and they have their little chisel and their little mallet, and they go tick, 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 tick. Character, right? There's repetition, there's direction, there's pressure, this is an intentional movement, and I'm carving something into reality. And so when we look at our behaviors, right, when we look at our choices, our character is who we choose to be.
Yeah.
Our character is who we choose. Now, the caveat to that, right, is that we have those subconscious beliefs. So no, I don't think that we're always in control, right? That like, if you can't stop drinking, there's part of you that's out of control, but there is part of you that has that chisel and that mallet. Yeah. And agency, or getting back your sovereignty as a whole human with free will, is regaining control of your chisel and mallet. Mm-hmm. It's taking it back from that thing that your bully said, or that I need to look like that Instagram influencer to be loved, or I need to look like my best friend sitting next to me to be loved. Like
back to belief.
It's back to beliefs. You've got to get in there and look at why you believe what you believe, so that you get to be the one to say, no, I want to go this way. I want to carve this path for myself. This is how I want to be known. Mm-hmm. And it's coming back to those places of consciousness and choosing, I'm going to bring these parts of me back into the fold, so that the person I live and the mark I leave behind is exactly what I want it to be. Yeah. It's something I'm proud of. It's something I chose. For me personally, if that's what happens at the end of my life, I'll be grateful.
Yeah, man. The world, people, events, too much information, which we're all mm-hmm. absolutely gorging ourselves on things that we don't need. It's like it just throws a little more dirt on your values. It just covers it up. Mm. And we forget our beliefs, because the beliefs are the excavator. It gets you back down. It gets all this stuff off. No. Yes, that's what I'm told, or that's what I'm influenced by, but that's not in line with my beliefs. And sometimes we need help from others. We need that accountability. We need that empathy. We need vulnerability. And then we need some motivation from others to get back to that. And that's where that beliefs and values can break that cycle, that shame cycle. We were talking about something earlier, and I think that brain science and what we just talked about need to be married up a little bit. And here's what I mean. For parents, if what you're hearing, you're internalizing personally, that's good. We all need to. But there's something that you were talking about. So your receptionist, what's your receptionist's name?
Amy.
Right. Okay. Amy's in here in a fully formed brain. And brains, if you don't know, they form from the back to the front. Mm-hmm. So brainstem, spinal cord, whatever, back of your brain, different function. Toward the amygdala, different function. Your hypothalamus, your logic centers. So when you're old enough, you're 25 or whatever, and I always say my wife's waiting for mine to kick in. But as you get that full brain, you process things and you communicate with people with more of the logic center, mm-hmm. not the rest of it. But if your full brain is talking to an 8-year-old's brain, I wish I could just get these fingers out of the way, and that's where their receptionist is, and they've only got fight or flight, and they've only got fear and understanding from the world that they're in to this point at 8 years old, 12 years old, then this whole brain is talking to a part that's not even turned on. Mm-hmm. And so when you say, well, how would you do something so stupid? What you may be thinking is, I'm saying you're not dumb, but the thing you did was. But that's not what's heard. You're confirming for me I am stupid. Mm-hmm. You're confirming for me X, Y, and Z. I'm already starting to believe about myself. When you're born, you've got this vessel that's full of hope and goodness and happiness. And as corny as that sounds, I believe it. Yeah. And then the world gets little pinpricks and it starts to leak out. Pinpricks, leaks out. Our job as parents, more than anything, is to understand, oh, this is how my child understands the world. Mm-hmm. Let me make sure what I mean is what they hear. And when it's not modeled for you, then you have generational verbal abuse that you would never call abuse. Right. I can think of things that I've said to my own kids when they were younger. And it did not convey at all what was in my mind. It was, look, your worth is tied to whether or not you can get this done in the next 5 minutes because we got to go to the store. Like, basically, that's the translation. So who's talking and who they're talking to, brain science, there's a gap there. So make sure we're explaining things to that person the way that we believe that they understand the world to that point with that love. Because you said, fundamentally, all of us, understand that we are loved. Well, it's very easy to misunderstand what love looks like to this full brain that was conditioned by their parents and their parents in the way that they parented. Yeah. And so they're echoing that, even if they said they never would. I'll never do that to my child. And this kid is hearing it in a way that doesn't sound like love.
Right.
And so there's a separation when the parents thought, I'm just tough love. I'm just a tough parent. Yeah. I hope that wasn't too much of a diversion, but I feel like that needs to come together.
Yeah. Well, and I was really encouraged in your conversation with Brian, and you all talked about reparenting your inner child. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting over there going, oh my God, I'm hearing grown men talk about reparenting your inner child. I was so thrilled because I don't often hear that outside of the personal development space. But it's so true. And so you talked about those pinpricks, right? You talked about those messages. Part of our job, right? And again, in reclaiming that chisel and mallet is for us to go back and for us to be that parent and to say, hey, I know that you didn't get the stability that you needed. And as adults, we can see our parents, we can see our, communities and see, I see you as the human that you are. I see that you were doing the best you could with the tools you had. And yet, this is the damage that was done to me. And we can own that without shaming, without, again, taking accountability, saying, if it's fallen in my plot of land, it's mine to fix. It doesn't mean that it was my fault that it's here. Yeah. But it's here and it's doing something. It's not just benign. So we have to address it. And so allowing yourself, giving yourself the grace to just say, that hurt. That impacted me. I wasn't the same after hearing that. I wasn't the same after experiencing that. And I can go back and look at little me in the eye and say, I see you. That's not who you are. We can move in a different direction. And that in itself, because the language of the nervous system is experience, you give yourself a new experience. You give your body a new experience. So again, that's not why, I know that's not true. Okay, but your brain doesn't. Yeah. But little you is still in there, and they're still kind of scared it is true. Yeah. So you have to give your body this visceral physical experience of get yourself in a room, talk to yourself in the car, get a journal, but you need to have a moment where you feel the truth of what you're saying, and you allow that part of your 6-year-old nervous system that's still clenched, because what if, because I'm bad, and you got to give little 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 12-year-old, 4-year-old you a chance to go, that is transformation. And quite frankly, anything less than that is a behavior modification that doesn't last. Yeah. And it's not supposed to last, because the healing, this is the healing that's calling to you. Yeah. And the consequences that you have, the symptoms that are coming up, they're just invitations. We hate them so much. We carry so much shame, but they're just invitations. They're just reminders. Hey, babe, you're worth more than this. Hey, babe, there's something better for you out here than feeling what you're feeling right now. And they're calls to come back to yourself and calls to come back home. But you kind of got to be willing and I would say resourced. You've got to kind of know that it's possible. You have to have a little bit of hope to know if I face that, it's not going to swallow me whole and chew me up and spit me out.
If it all starts with identity, then you almost have to go back in a time machine to when that identity was shaped when you're younger and tell yourself, that is not true. Yeah. This is what's true. This is who you are. And so that's where all that kind of inner child stuff comes in. All right, I'm going to try something. We didn't talk about this, so I'm putting you on the spot. But I believe in practical application. I believe in, okay, that's all great. Yeah. What does that mean? I'm going to give you a situation. I'm going to give you an acting out behavior or feeling. And if you could just simply model that belief to values to to change to help with that internal struggle, just tell me briefly what that would look like.
I love that. Ooh, a coaching session.
Yeah, exactly. And like you're 30, 45 seconds, whatever, but and it doesn't have to be exact. Just good.
Okay.
So I am I'm a dad who works 70 hours a week. I'm not at my kids' stuff. I'm telling myself that I'm providing, but I hate myself for being absent. What's that look like from an internal struggle to behavior to attitudes to acting out to shame?
So I would ask you, tell me a little bit more about why you're working. Just tell me more about why you're working. And I want to hear, again, those motivations, right? Or that story. Well, my kids have this and we, the car broke down. We had to get a new one. And I'm listening for those, and I'm gonna say, oh, and that sounds really important. That sounds. So I'm also listening for what's important to you. Okay, man, you've got a lot of needs here. It really it matters to you that you show up. And then I'm gonna say, okay, so tell me why that feels like a problem. And then I'm gonna hear, well, I'm not there for my kids, and my wife's this, and I just feel like I'm, But what you said is I hate myself.
There was an acknowledgement of some, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm listening for that language, right? For, people come to me and they say, I'm doing this, but somewhere in there's usually a little gem like that where I'm saying, hey, I noticed that as you talked about that, you said this. Yeah. Tell me about that.
You're helping them get back to that word choice that you chose it for a reason.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, right, so much of this shame and fear that we're carrying is in the back of our brain without language. But as we get older, right, we do develop that prefrontal cortex. So what I'm trying to do is I'm asking you questions because what it does is it forces your brain to draw from the back and put it here. And once you start to say it out loud, then you go, oh, well, that doesn't quite, right? Because whenever that belief got imprinted, that screenshot, it made sense.
Yeah.
Like it was the truth.
So it's a given now. Like that's just truth, even though it's not.
Yes. But now you're an adult and you have new experiences and you have new information. And so when I can get someone to start drawing those beliefs, so what I tell people, if you're doing this by yourself, this is what I do all the time. I talk to myself so much. I have a journal app where I voice note things. I journal a lot. I'm always thinking, but I start asking questions, great questions to ask yourself when you feel a behavior that you're not proud of. Let's say that situation that you just mentioned, or you yelled at your kids.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I'm always yelling at my kids.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that kind of thing.
So my invitation, if you're doing this by yourself and it's not being facilitated, and I do encourage facilitation.
Great point.
Trust-based relational intervention is a methodology. It's a framework I've been trained in multiple times as from the Karen Purvis Institute at TCU.
A lot of people have heard of TBRI, but they don't understand that's exactly what you're talking about.
So powerful.
Yeah.
So they're kind of the fundamental ideology is that all positive change takes place in the context of a trust-based relationship, which is why having a coach, having a mentor, having a therapist,
come on,
you've got to have that relationship.
Got to have somebody.
If you were harmed in relationship, healing comes through relationship. The language of the nervous system is experience. You got to give yourself a new experience. But you also can practice this on your own, and it's important to kind of develop that skill. So asking yourself questions. Ooh, why did I say that?
Yeah.
What was I feeling just then? And just start asking why until you can't ask any until you get to the.
I love that. Where did that come from?
Right. Where did that come from? And just begin to practice that self-reflection, because what that will do again is bring those subconscious beliefs to your prefrontal cortex where you can verbalize, oh, that's what I'm believing here.
Because you can't get there until you start back to the identity, until you get back to the real thing.
And that's what that process will get you to.
Forward. All right, so I'm a 16-year-old girl, and my birthday's in a week, and I'm still a virgin, and everywhere around me, I see OnlyFans, I see influencers. I see sex. I see this. That's all the boys around me talk about. There's something wrong with me because I'm not having, and everybody else is. Mm-hmm. And there's this state of confusion and prudeness and whatever else.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
How's that go? What's that flow like?
There's an invitation, right? The discomfort is always the invitation. The discomfort is always the invitation. So but you first got to notice that you're uncomfortable, right? Because what we tend to do is exactly what you say. Is we just act out.
Yeah.
Well, I want this to go away, so I'm gonna do this. But if I can realize that the discomfort is actually the invitation, I can sit with that. Okay, why am I so uncomfortable? Why is this such a big deal to me that I don't have this experience, that I can't relate to the people around me? Do I like what I'm seeing? Yeah. Like, is that why does it just look so great that I feel like I'm missing out? Or do I feel, so then you begin to notice, right? What's the story? And then again, it's that identity of going, well, who am I among all of this noise? Who am I? And it's taking that chisel and mallet and going, okay, maybe that does look awesome. Okay, great. No, it doesn't look awesome.
Yeah.
I just feel so left out. So if I do this or if I go down this road, will that make me feel like I want to feel? Or am I just going to end up like they end up?
Yeah.
Because they don't look happy either, right? And so that discomfort, I can't stress that enough. It is all, if it's a physical symptom, if it's a relational thing, if it's an emotional thing, it's always the invitation to just come in and go, I wonder what's here. What story am I telling myself? And is that the story I want to choose?
Yeah. Am I going ahead and doing the thing because I think that's the qualifier for whatever culture's telling me I should be? Or do I go back to who I am? Do I go back to the identity? Because I love that hammer and chisel. It's really pretty simple, but identity isn't the chiseling. Identity is before you pick it up. What do I want to chisel?
Yes.
And then the acting out behavior is the chiseling.
Yeah. To me, identity is, oh gosh, I'm going to embarrass myself right now. Is it Michelangelo that said like,
We're talking about Ninja Turtles or artists?
The artist,
then
right?
I
Who said like
myself.
David was in the marble. I just took him out.
That.
So something like that. It's that same idea, right? Of like integrity is carving out the truth of what's there and bringing the truth of what's beneath to the surface. And I think what I just said is also really significant. And it took me a really long time to realize it, that you get to choose what you believe.
Sure. Yeah.
That you get to choose the story. And most people think, well, this happened or that happened or I said this. And so but the truth, thank you for looking that up. I appreciate you. The truth of what there is a fundamental truth. And sometimes our beliefs don't align with that. Or yes, that bully said that to you, or that thing happened, or your mom did do that thing. Like that was real.
Yeah.
But is the story that you tell yourself true?
Yeah.
And you get to choose what you believe.
Because when you told that story when only part of your brain was working, the one that's based in fear, flight, freeze, judgment, arousal, when you told that story to yourself because you tried to make sense, would you trust the interpretation of something complex to some other 12-year-old? You're an adult, and you go to a 12-year-old and say,
right.
Hey, tell me about what personal introspection and then the detrimental outcomes from doing that wrong would be. Are you going to take your advice from this kid? No, you are that kid. You're going back to that time.
Yeah.
And, Okay, thank you for those exercises because I'm hearing it, and I'm actually seeing people that I've worked with. Mm-hmm. And then at one point, I'm seeing myself as a husband. That's the part that really was the turning point for me, but it wasn't enough. Like this is DVDs, right? Not even internet. It's been a while. But I take them and I'm angry and I throw them away. And I just throw them outside. I break them so nobody else can have them and I throw them away. And to me, that was this behavior of I've had enough and I don't like what it's doing here. I don't like what it's doing here. I don't like what it's doing in my relationship. And I share that because I think other people are in that place But the physical act of throwing it away was just me not knowing how to work through this process you just talked about. That's why therapy is so important, right? And that's why having a connection with somebody, you bring all this stuff and you throw it out there and they help you sort it like, well, this is that. And you're doing the sorting and they're helping you put things in categories, the things you don't pick up anymore. It's trash now. Oh, that's why I'm doing that. I threw that away because it was in conflict with something I believed in my identity. And I believed I was a good dad. I believed I was a good man. I believed I was a good husband. But it didn't take long for what I was consuming to be in conflict with that. But I couldn't name it and I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
Not really. That is why people get so frustrated with trying to break compulsions or being compelled to do something.
Yeah.
Whether it's eating or whatever, and then the self-talk begins.
Right.
And the self-talk is what cements you instead of the chisel getting you out of it. Like understanding where it was coming from, that was the switch that needed to flip, because otherwise I was in that state.
Yeah.
I was static. I wasn't able to move out of a stage.
Yes. Yeah. When I did that therapy session and I had that memory where I remembered sitting in those desks, and I heard myself say like, oh, I thought that if I was smaller, I would be more liked, or like I thought that that's why people didn't like me as much as they liked her. Everyone always says like eating disorders are about control. And I was like, okay, I mean, I kind of get that. I can be a little controlling sometimes. But what I was trying to do was control how people perceived me so that they would like, I'm trying to get you to like me. So I'm going to like, that's where the control is. And again, I'm taking my agency, my power, and I'm putting it outside of myself. And I'm saying, one, I can't control this person, but that's where all my energy is going. I want you. And I was 28 when I sat on the floor of my bedroom crying, had another panic attack because my shorts didn't fit the same way they did yesterday, or I couldn't see my bones, or I was not in a good place. And I just told myself, like, you can't keep, you're too old for this. Like, you can't keep doing this. But what I believed was that no one would love me if I wasn't the size I thought I should be in my head. And so again, like for a 28-year-old woman to, be crying on her bedroom floor, that started as a 12-year-old kid, sitting in a desk. And I had to face that truth of like, oh, as an adult, I have proof that like people are loved at all sizes, right? Like I'm not going to be alone for forever because I look the way that I look. But that was the story that I told myself. And like you said, going back to that place, I tried so many times, and I still really struggle. And it will come in waves, and it's very sneaky, and it will take a lot of different forms. But I now know to go, oh, okay, we need to tend to some place where I'm afraid that I'm not enough.
I will be tempted, like anybody, dozens of times a day, sexually, whatever, social media, Facebook, woman in grocery store, whatever. If I didn't ever get back to the conflict and understand that's in conflict, that's not who I am, and because of that, I'm acting out this way, then I would just act out that way and hate myself or be like, oh, well, I got away with it that time. There would be such a mixed, detrimental message mixed into that. And that's what I think just brings us to this culmination, like, again, back to the chisel, but beginning with the end in mind. And then being able to work from there. Yeah. What does that mean to you?
We all could change for a lot of different reasons. And most of us have a lot of different motivations. We want to feel better about ourselves. We want people to receive us, all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to like making lasting transformation, to look at the end and go, why start this process? Right? If I'm serious about wanting to make a change and what this chick said on this podcast is true, and I have to go into this pit and sort out all my stuff, why do that at all? For me, living in the fullness of love is what's on the other side of that. love is, that's it. And when, for my personal philosophy on life, my personal, I guess, theology really, is that we were made so that our full, raw, honest truth can stand in the presence of unconditional, radical love. And that full, like, I see that the kind of love that just like pierces through everything. I see you. That's who you are. And I'm calling that forward. And I see all the other stuff, and I love you for all of it.
Yeah.
And your struggles and your pain, it all makes you who you are, and it makes you messy, and it makes you human, and it makes you someone that grapples with, like, bring it, bring it on. And when you stand and encounter love like that, that sees everything and goes, that I'm all in for this right here. Yeah. Like, that to me changes everything. And it's so beautiful, but a love like that, living life from that place, it's so vulnerable. There's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to hide. And you can't earn it, and you can't control it. And so a lot of us shrink, and we try to hide, and we deflect, and we continue to perpetuate these stories that are like, that try to disprove that love, or try to earn, like, we're running.
Yeah.
We're running. And
people think of running from something. It's also chasing. You're always chasing. It's exhausting, right?
Yes.
You're trying to get to that thing. If I could just have that. And then you get there and the mile marker moved, and you realize, this car is nice, but if I could only have that, it's because you're chasing a thing and not sitting with yourself, trying to get back to that peace. We've talked about so many different processes and progressions, but it comes back to humanity, man. It comes back to understanding that you don't have to be qualified to be, like, here you are struggling with your size, air quotes, you're so small, your legs are bigger than that kid's. But to you, that manifested into a 28-year-old who still could not reconcile their body type, whatever. But you never really stopped and said, but wait, my friend is almost 200 pounds. I love the heck out of her. I can't get enough of game night with them, hanging out with them. Like, other people in your life were not in any way conformed to whatever that body image you felt like you had to have.
Right.
But you loved them, but you weren't able to connect that. And this connection is where I believe we can do the most good in our work. Yes, buyers, yes, people who are exploited, for sure. But understanding humanity from a reformation standpoint, something bigger than ourselves, which is our being loved and being worthy of love.
Yeah.
But then also knowing that on the other side of the fear and apprehension, it's that freedom. You stop running.
Yeah. You stop running, and it's the best feeling. It's the best.
It sounds like somebody who has stopped running and knows what that feels like.
Yeah. You were talking about, like, a life of thriving that sounds impossible. But I feel like I'm living it. And again, like, my life's crazy and it's not ideal, right? Like, it does not meet anyone's standard of successful. And I'm very blessed and privileged in so many different ways. But my own experience and my own interpretation of my life is, like, I live in constant wonder. But I had to get there. I had to get in with the mess. I spent so much of my life running. I spent so much of my life proving and striving and earning. And it came out in all these, honestly, societally appraised ways. Like, I'm your straight A student. I was your classic church girl. Like, I did the things. But I was running.
Yeah.
And the freedom and the peace when I stopped running and realized that none of that was getting me what I really needed. And that actually I was just loved where I was, has allowed me to be more of myself, to be more and to love who I am and to choose myself in ways that I didn't even know I could. Like, I didn't even know that was possible, to choose myself, to love and value myself and to see myself. And it's beautiful, and it's so fun, and it allows me to be the Botox. Like, it allows me to be that person.
Intentional uplifter.
To be the intentional uplifter, because I'm no longer looking at everyone else and needing them to do it for me.
Yeah. Oh man, right there. That's it.
I don't need that. I needed it for 30 years of my life, and I don't need it anymore. And it's such a gift to just get to look at someone in the eye and just love them for them.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't need people. Like, I'm not self-sufficient. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying I have learned how to take what's been given to me and let it fill me. And when you start to see everything as nourishment, it not just sugar, not just can I get more of this, but when you start to see everything as nourishment, you start to live from that place.
Yeah.
And there's so much abundance.
That's awesome. I'm taking it back to one of our models. It's this empathy, and I'm sorry you're hurting, but you're in a place that's healthy, right? So you're saying this to somebody else. I hate that you're struggling. Thank you for including me in it. It's not the same thing, but I know what it's like to struggle. I've been there. And sometimes I sit in wonderment in my own life because now I'm free of that. And I've got this freedom and self-love that you deserve as well. Mm-hmm. If you want any time, I'm here for you. We can talk about what that looks like. Like, that's the story model. And you've just been talking about it. Being able to do that for somebody is transformational.
Yeah.
This is backwards. Usually I blindside people with this question at the end, but you've kind of answered the question the whole time, but I'm still going to ask it of you. If you go back to little Christa, just take a little hand. What would you say to little Christa?
Oh, I'd say you do you, girl. You, like, don't stop. She had all the vision. She was so attuned. I was a really weird kid, but I look back at her with so much pride, and I want to just catch her, like, right at the cusp, 11, 12, when I started to feel like I wasn't enough. Mm-hmm. And I want to just, like, look her in the eye and I want her to hear and see me and be like, babe, we did it. Like, we didn't give up, and don't, like, you just keep doing you, because you are you for a reason. You matter, and don't lose that magic.
Yeah. Well, we are grateful that you are you and who you've become, because it is the intentional uplifter. That'll be a theme of is that the title of this episode that we're going to do? You really are somebody who helps others understand transformation is possible. And I can't think of any other greater gift. You're a gift to us. Thank you for coming on the podcast. Thank you for being on the other side of the camera every other time.
Yeah.
And we're just absolutely grateful for your presence. Thank you, Christa.
Oh, my joy.